Asra Nomani is a journalist, and she's worked internationally for the last couple of decades, but it was her job as a mom in Northern Virginia that really got her activated politically when Thomas Jefferson High School decided to discriminate against Asian Americans because they're Asian American. Literal racial discrimination when it comes to admittance policies for one of the top high schools in this country. She's got a brand new book, and she's naming names. The book is Woke Army, the Red-Green Alliance that is destroying America, and she joins us now. Asra, it's always good to talk with you. Thank you for all your advocacy.
Oh, thank you, Larry. You have been there with me from the beginning.
Well, it's easy to follow you. You're such a good leader. And this book, Woke, and explain the Red-Green Alliance, because that cover is striking. It's clear what you're saying here about the Red-Green Alliance. You're talking about communism, and you're talking about radical Islam.
Yeah, it's not subtle at all. And I don't want it to be, because I want people to be really clear that this is a danger. This is a threat facing America and the future of not just our society, but our children. So as you know, Larry, I am a Muslim, and I became a Muslim reformer after the tragedy of my friend Danny Pearl's murder in 2002. I had a son, and in the fall of 2003, I walked to the front door of my mosque in my hometown in West Virginia. And there I confronted this ideology that wants to keep women in the back and considers Jews and Christians enemies of the religion. Well, that's when I stood up, and what I faced was this woke army.
Yeah.
Islamists and leftists working together to shut us up. And that's what the book exposes.
Well, when people think woke, they think, things like the transgender activism, and they think about political correctness and sort of bending over backwards with pronouns and critical race theory. You don't often align those kind of things from the left with Muslims who generally, especially, very strict adherent Muslims, Asra, who I would think normally would be more socially conservative. So
Right.
How does this alliance work?
Yeah, it's an unholy alliance, and it's an alliance of convenience. So right here in Northern Virginia, most of the book is set because it is here in Northern Virginia at a place called 500 Grove Street in Herndon, Virginia, Larry, right across the street from a halal meat store, that the Muslim Brothers in the 1980s created a hub. And in that hub, they ended up creating this alphabet soup of organizations that have embedded themselves in the Democratic Party. I would never have imagined this, except these are the people that we have faced now as parents also.
Well, and I guess, radical Marxists and radical Islam, they have a common enemy, and that is freedom-loving Americans and the greatness that America has had on history. In fact, I think we have a perfect example of this. There's a school board member in Fairfax County that you're very familiar with, Abrar Omesh. She was at a school board meeting this last week. Take a look at what she said in that meeting. Watch.
There's also a lot of history in February. A number of community members reached out to me just a few days ago. Was Japanese Day of Remembrance, something for us to certainly reflect on as we learn our history and think about it. The days when, Iwo Jima unfortunately happened and set a record for really what, I hate to say, human evil is capable of.
Wow, Asra, you got to wonder who she thinks the good guys and bad guys were in World War II. I mean, is this an example of what you're talking about?
Oh, this is the perfect example of the woke army at work. First of all, Abrar Omesh is a daughter of the Islamist movement in America, has a very puritanical interpretation of Islam, but yet is aligned with the LGBTQ activists who are pushing a lot of the sexually inappropriate books in our school system. So first of all, she's got that contradiction. Then the first time that I got engaged, Larry, with the school board issue was when I was at this fundraiser for the American Muslims for Palestine. And I couldn't believe it. There's this young woman who stepped forward in 2019 saying she's running for school board. It was Abrar Omesh. And what she said is that she wanted to be able to get into this position of power to change curriculum related to Islam and Palestine. And what is that about? History. And it's about erasing Israel. And that is the enemy, really, for a lot of her Red-Green Alliance. And in this case, they're going after American history,
Yeah.
and American heroes. But this is part of their larger campaign of disinformation. And Abrar Ramesh is a perfect example of how this woke army has found political power in our school systems and in America.
And I mean, sadly, this is not uncommon. And I think it's telling, Asra, that the school board, not Congress, not the Senate, not the White House, school board was a target here to get this job done. That tells you conservatives need to be focusing on school boards. We need to get in the game.
Yeah, because what has happened, I know this really well. I lay it out in the book and was ending the book. I was finishing it in 2019, 2020, and then the school board issue exploded here, Larry. And I ended up rewriting the entire book, adding into it this politics of critical race theory and the agenda of the far left to take over our school system. That's what happened in 2020, allowing me to see really clearly that they had their eyes on our kids. And Abrar Ramesh is the perfect example of a young person that they have installed in governance now through this establishment right here in Northern Virginia that's putting money into the Democratic Party. And their objective is really clear. It's a hijacking of America and our history and our heroes.
And Asra, of course, if you criticize her, if you criticize her positions, if you criticize her qualifications, or you criticize her policies, you're not debated on those issues. You're called racist, you're called Islamophobe, you're called intolerant. They even call you that, Asra.
Yeah. Yeah, I went before my school board about this really important issue of this new racism of the woke army against Asian students. And today is a remarkable day because Elon Musk has heard our cry and has tweeted out also about the fact that this new racism exists. Jason Miyares has valiantly stood up for our families and said that this is a state-sanctioned racism that is happening, and it's happening because of school boards like Fairfax County, Virginia. What we are doing is standing up to them, and then what do they call us? White supremacists and racists. And I saw in the summer of 2020 that the Muslim lobby had taken critical race theory to create a shield for themselves using race. And that's how the Islamophobia and racist attack happens if you dare to talk about Islamic extremism. So it is all interconnected. And I want everybody to educate themselves, read the book, because then you will be inoculated to their tactics, their disinformation, their character assassination, which we haven't even talked about, Larry. That's another segment.
We'll have to do it another time, Asra. We're already out of time. But it is impressive and interesting and noteworthy that Elon Musk is on this too. And by the way, some of the newest Republicans out of California are Asian American women, Korean Americans, who are now running as Republicans. I think the vote is starting to shift in that block, and that's a good thing. But we got to leave it there. Again, the book is Woke Army, the Red-Green Alliance That's Destroying America. That's Asra Nomani. Get the book, and we'll be right back on O'Connor Tonight.